So please click the Got It button. We will record this so people who are not able to attend tonight are able to hear it later. We're going to get started with a prayer from the Disciples' Prayer Book. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Creator, we give you thanks for all you are and all you bring to us for our visit within your creation. In Jesus, you place the gospel in the center of this sacred circle, through which all creation is related. You show us the way to live a generous and compassionate life. Give us your strength to live together with respect and commitment as we grow in your spirit. For you are God, now and forever. Amen. So it's good to see you all. For those of you that I haven't met, perhaps, I'm your bishop, Jennifer Reddall, and it's a joy to greet you to the first of the pre-convention workshops for the 63rd Annual Diocesan Convention of the Diocese of Arizona. We are doing this over Zoom, and 3.5 years after the start of the pandemic, I'm going to guess that you are all Zoom professionals. Nonetheless, I am required by some sort of canonical law to give you some instructions, which is to remind you to please keep yourself on mute when you are not speaking. And also that if you have a question or want to be recognized to ask a question or make a comment or something, we want you to use the raise hand feature. So we are all going to have, imagine, I know this will hurt Brother Dave's heart, but imagine that we were singing, I am the resurrection and the life, and I will raise him up and I will raise him up. Everyone, raise your hands on Zoom just to practice that. That is beautiful. Okay, some of you are still working on it. So if you are on a computer and you go down to reactions is where you click to raise your hands. But it looks like we are, well, we're not quite almost. Oh, we're getting better and better and better. Some of you are raising your hands. Some of you giving a thumbs up to I will raise him up. Some of you are clapping, also an appropriate response to resurrection. Excellent. All right. Hopefully you have all figured out how to do that. You may now lower your hands. Go back to being quiet Episcopalians sitting in your pew, hoping no one will notice you. So you can ask questions during the presentations by raising your hand like that. You can also ask questions by putting a question in the chat. We have some staff members who are paying attention to the chat so we can make sure that those questions get answered. We are going to accomplish two things tonight. The first is we are looking at a proposed canonical change. And for that is set as a resolution. And then we are looking at a rather more substantial resolution, which is the financial statement of mission or the budget. We are going to address the proposed canonical change first. And in order to do that, the Reverend Ben Guerin, who is the chair of the Resolutions Committee, is unfortunately on a plane even as we speak. So he is not able to do that. But Brother David Hedges, as the parliamentarian, is going to present the resolution that's the canonical change for us. So Brother Dave, I invite you to claim your voice on Zoom.
Thank you, Bishop. If you're referring to I Am the Bread of Life, it's an absolute banger. And of course, we sing it every year on Corpus Christi. Before we get into the resolution for the canon change, I would like to direct your attention to the rules of order. In your packet, you have these bad boys right here, the rules of order. These are the rules of order for our convention's business session as they currently stand. And so they are sent out to you in the purpose of full information. However, we sincerely hope that these rules of order will be made completely irrelevant in short order by the passage of these simplified rules of order here on page 2 of your delegate packet. We're not going to get into that tonight, but I want you to look at them, the proposed rules of order. You will see basically that this consists of all of the good stuff from the old rules of order and most of the dross consumed and refined out of it. So just have a look at that, because that will be, after the bishop's opening presentation, the first order of business. So get a good look at that. Hopefully they will not be nearly as controversial as the proposed rules of order for General Convention. If you know, you know. Now, the resolution that we will consider is a change to the canons of the Diocese of Arizona, and you can find that in your materials on page 17, Resolution 2023-1, to amend Canon 16.4 of the Diocese of Arizona to allow for inflation regarding mission congregation expenses. This is proposed by the Standing Committee, who have had to work under this canon. We would like to change it a bit. So I'm going to give the floor to Canon Lisa Derrick, who's going to introduce this and tell us a little bit about it. Lisa, are you here?
I am. Thank you. And I've just unmuted myself, as you can
Great.
see here.
Thanks.
So,
Lisa, if you'd like me to share the text of the resolution at any point, we can do that.
I think that's really helpful to do that. So if you could do that, please. And I can just offer a little summary of it for those of you that have not been able to take a look at this yet. So this is Resolution 2023. As a member, soon outgoing member of the Standing Committee, we are definitely in full support. We're submitting this as a committee of 4 of Standing Committee members who are supporting this particular resolution. If you could just kind of scan down and just kind of flip through. As you review this, you will see that there's a brief explanation of the resolution, of the process in which this resolution will be managed and voted on. And so I will take a couple of minutes and provide you with kind of a summary of the intent behind this particular resolution. When the Standing Committee is doing the business of the church, and particularly the financial business of the diocese, we have to recognize the ever-changing value of the dollar. And so simply, this particular resolution is addressing the fact that what cost this much back then costs double or triple now. And so the current canon establishes guidelines for churches that are making particular expenditures as it relates to capital expenditures within their parishes. And the current canon states that all expenditures made over $2,500 require Standing Committee approval. So you can imagine $2,500 these days doesn't get us too much. And so nearly everything has been coming through Standing Committee for approval prior to procurement, which in theory, it could be good, but the capital expenditures should need to be analyzed and approved, and that takes some time. And so that's put us as Standing Committee in the business of basically micromanaging the financial affairs of churches, who should be doing that part themselves and have that a higher level of control. What are now the smaller expenditures? What are now smaller expenditures end up being, literally very small items. And so we want it to go back to its original intent, is to have an amount that is going to fluctuate from year to year, and we want to be able to provide a simple, practical solution that is going to change the current, what we consider to be currently restrictive, and actually holds up requests. So until the Standing Committee can get to a particular request, it can hold up those expenditures, and sometimes very important expenditures that need to be made. And so we are proposing to change, and we're change the canon that will allow those annual adjustments and caps to be made on those expenditures by a church to be designated annually by the standing committee based on current economic impact of the value of the dollar and the costs of the current costs of goods and services. So this proposed canon change will definitely empower vestries, bishops' committees to take a greater ownership of their projects that they're funding. And it's taking the standing committee out of the micromanagement business related to making smaller repairs that churches need. So that's kind of the resolution in a nutshell.
Thank you,
So we would
Lisa,
be
so much.
removing the current language, the restricted language of the dollar amount of 2,500, and language would be included. As you can see, that would include the standing committee coming through and doing an analysis based on those economic impacts and the cost of goods and services on an annual basis.
Thank you, Lisa. I see we have one question in the chat and one person with their hand up. So Margaret, I will call on you first since you've had your hand up for a good long while. Do you have a question about this resolution? You're saying no. Okay. All right. So I see questions in the chat. One is, Tim's is easy to answer. Tim Highland is asking, doesn't this only apply to bishops' committees and not vestry? That is correct. So this is only for mission congregations. This is not for parishes. Parishes, you only have to have permission of the bishop and standing committee regarding your property if, and I just want to review this because sometimes people get confused, if you are selling or encumbering any of your property for more than 5 years, you need permission of the bishop and standing committee. That selling is pretty obvious, but encumbering means you're renting to someone for a long time or something like that. So even parishes need permission from the bishop and standing committee for those things, but not for capital expenses like this.
Bishop, encumbrance also refers to going into debt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taking out a loan on the property.
So, and then Sean Rutledge has asked, do we have an estimate of what the $2,500 might look like now if this passes? We have not yet discussed that together as a standing committee, but I imagine it would be in the range of somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 rather than $2,500, which at this point is like a really big visit from a plumber. Other questions on this resolution? All right, then Lisa, thank you so much for presenting this. Thank you so much to Brother Dave for stepping in as resolutions chair pro tem. And we will now move to the presentation about the 2024 financial statement of mission by our incredible treasurer, Susie Mortensen. Before Susie gets started, I do want to highlight that Patty Henderson, our new director of finance and property, is on her 4th day working for the Diocese of Arizona. So if you find Patty H on your screen, she's wearing yellow, she'll pop. Give a wave to Patty. We're very happy to have her in the office and very excited that she's working for us and she's here tonight listening and learning. So Susie, take it away.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to pick the right presentation. What? Okay, so the tech support is here. Okay. All right. Let's try that again. I'm going to share screen. That one. Okay. Here. Okay. Thank goodness for Laurel Way. Thank you. All right. Let me just rearrange this. Okay, here we go. Good evening, everybody. I am Susie Mortensen, the treasurer of the diocese, and tonight I will be reviewing our proposed financial statement of mission for 2024. Now, we call it a financial statement of mission, even though most of us think of it as a budget, but we call it a financial statement of mission because it should reflect how we intend to use the financial resources of the diocese in order to support the ministry we want to undertake in the coming year. So I'm going to start with an overview of how we develop the financial statement of mission, followed by a summary of the actual plan, and I'll be pointing out key components along the way. Okay, so our process begins in July. The Diocesan Finance team reaches out to key program leaders, to Bishop Rettel, and they reach out to me too, and other diocesan staff. And Bishop Rettel shares her vision for the needs of the congregation and the communities and the direction of the diocese. We analyze our current revenue trends, primarily as it relates to mission share. And then a draft is put together and reviewed by myself, Bishop Rettel, and the finance team, and we make adjustments as necessary. So the proposed financials is submitted. When we're done with all that, we submit it for review and approval to the Diocesan Finance Committee. And our Diocesan Finance Committee approved this statement of mission on September 7th. Next, we send it to the Standing Committee, and our Standing Committee approved this on September 13th. And finally, it's going to come to the convention, and it's the convention delegates who have the final approval of the 2024 statement of mission. And the delegates will vote on this at the business meeting on Tuesday, October 17th. And so we will find out on October 17th if the convention will approve our 2024 statement of mission. Okay, I wanted to talk about some key things that are sorry, I'm seeing two different screens. Our 2024 financial statement of mission has been formed with a number of key objectives. We want to continue to support our churches and missions as they grow Christ Church and become the beloved community. We want to reduce some costs through reductions in staff and through some of the support that we're paying out for congregations right now. We definitely want to adequately support clergy and staff with reasonable wages and benefits. And of course, we want to continue to support the ministries of the diocese. So to that end, all staff who have been in their position for a year or more have received an increase of 3%, with the exception of Bishop Rettel and Canon Anita, who elected not to receive an increase this year. So far as the diocesan clergy staff go, we have reduced the canon for border ministry to half-time. The border minister position has been eliminated. And the canon for creation care, that position was eliminated also. For diocesan lay staff, the safe church administrator position was eliminated, and these responsibilities were transferred to the administrative assistant. The events position was eliminated, but most of those event responsibilities were transferred to the bishop's executive assistant, Serena Adel. And finally, we added a finance assistant for property. And this was primarily necessitated because of the tragic fire at St. Stephen's in Douglas. This is taking a massive amount of diocesan resources and time. And so we needed somebody who would be on point for that. And that is Tony Murdoch. Okay. So I want to get started on the actual nuts and bolts of what is in the 2024 Statement of Mission. Revenue is projected to be $3,915,552, and this is a decrease of $81,511 from the 2023 plan. Mission share remains unchanged at $2,750,000, and the assessment percentage will continue to be 16.9%. Going down to our restricted funds and reserved funds are decreasing by a total of $92,000. This is because those funds are continuing to run out, and we just want to minimize how much we're using those. So our revenue in other categories include church repayments, payroll processing, camps and leaderships, endowment income. So these are kind of going up and down for a number of different reasons, but the net of all of those is $10,890. The church repayments, I'll get into this a little bit more later, but we are asking and working with some of our mission churches to bring them to a place where they can cover more of their operating costs that are currently being paid by the diocese. Our payroll processing income, this is going to zero because in 2024, this now is truly just a pass-through of the charges that we are paying to ISALT. So those of you who have your payrolls processed by the diocese, you're used to seeing those fees on your invoices. You're still getting charged those fees, but that's exactly what we are paying to ISALT for your payroll processing. Camps and leaderships is decreasing by 18,200. Again, this is more in line with what our 2023 actuals are. We have a slight decrease in the amount that we're drawing from the endowment funds, and then a handful of miscellaneous other adjustments again, and that brings us to the total of increase there of $10,890. Okay, so this pie chart shows the various sources of revenue that we expect to receive in order to fund our objectives and to continue to support the work of the diocese. Mission share makes up 70% of the revenue, followed by funds from our endowment at 10%. Restricted funds, when you combine the other restricted and the Alleluia and Neely funds, that's almost 10%. And then we have another 10% from the other little areas for fees and repayments, camps and leadership retreats, and just other revenue. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to our planned expenditures. Okay, so our expenditures are also projected to be $3,915,522. This also is a decrease of $81,511 from 2023. So we'll start with the category of ministries and programs. This is, we have a number of categories here I want to touch on. In the adult education and events, this line is decreasing by $43,220. And that's because primarily in 2023, we had the Best Skills program that was part of our adult education, but we had that contract was with ASU and it ended last year. So this year, we have replaced the Best Skills program with 3 programs, Thriving in Ministry, Practical Priest Development, and VIP for small congregations. And the expenses for these new programs have been moved to a different location on our financial statement, and it's in the line for support for missions and congregations. Under clergy support, our seminarian support and clergy placement support are decreasing just because at this point there are fewer people in the seminarian process, and we have fewer first-time clergy in our churches. Children and youth, the 2023 plan included $17,000 for the Episcopal youth event and the Hispanic Episcopal youth event. So the Episcopal youth event did occur, but the Hispanic youth event was moved to 2024, and so that's why we're seeing that decrease. Under other ministries and programs, campus ministry, Hispanic Latino, social justice, other programs, these are not changing significantly from 2023. And so all in total, we have a net decrease in ministries and programs of $65,585. I did want to mention also that in the ministries and programs is where we have our mission share rebate. And since our mission share revenue is not changing very much, the mission share rebate is not changing. So that will continue to be at 1% for 2024. And just as a reminder, your mission share rebate that you receive from the diocese is intended to be used for outreach, whatever outreach programs you were doing. So long as you're using it for outreach, we're very happy with that. Okay. Our next category that I want to talk about is the diocesan clergy and compensation benefits. As I noted earlier, well, first of all, diocesan clergy compensation is decreasing by almost $89,000. As I noted, we are reducing the canon for border ministry to a half-time position and eliminating the border minister position. And our canon for creation care retired from her position in mid-2023, and we're not filling it. We have added funds for creation care activities and ministry in the ministries and programs section of the financial statement. Diocesan lay staff is increasing by $44,462. Although we eliminated 2 positions, the part-time safe church administrator and the events coordinator position, and added these responsibilities to other staff members. We also had some increases for staff to be able to stay competitive with the industry, and also there were some increases recognizing the additional work that some of the other staff took on as we eliminated positions. And as I mentioned, we added the position in the finance area for property. Finally, the benefits for lay staff is increasing by $17,614. This is primarily due to increases in health insurance. And we included a placeholder for overtime because we know that sometimes our hourly staff have to work on weekends, supporting some of the activities of the diocese, and those will generally result in overtime circumstances. Okay, our governance and polity is increasing by $36,000, and this is primarily due to the General Convention, which takes place in 2024. So since this only happens every 3 years, that's why we're seeing a pretty significant increase there. The assessment that the diocese pays to the Episcopal Church is increasing. It's going from $322,600 to $332,000. This is an increase of about $9,400. And finally, we are projecting that the 2024 Diocesan Convention will be $20,000 lower than the 2023 estimate. And the 2024 convention will be a hybrid convention, again, similar to this one. Okay, going on to mission in our congregations. From an expense standpoint, mission in our congregations is increasing by $10,000. As I mentioned earlier, we replaced the Best Skills program with 3 new programs. This is where those programs live now. The Thriving in Ministry, Practical Priest Development, and VIP Small Congregations. This accounts for $22,500 of these increases. And then the donor restricted, again, I mentioned this a little bit in revenue. We are continuing to decrease our support from donor restricted funds, both Alleluia and Neely, as those funds are starting to run out. Okay, I had mentioned at the outset as one of our goals was that we wanted to see a bit of a decrease in how much we were supporting some of our congregations. And I just told you that the expenses for mission in our congregations went up by $10,000. So I want to give you a little summary of how that actually works out. So when you look at what the expenditures are, combined with what the church repayment lines are, which we've talked about in income, then you can see how that is overall decreasing between the income coming in and the expenditures going out. And also, I felt like the increase in congregational development for those new programs, that we should remove that from the factor too, because that was not quite apples and oranges. So anyway, when you look at it that way, and I know I know this is a lot of numbers, and I'm probably blowing some of your minds a little bit, but this is the stuff that I geek out on. The net expenditure for missions in our congregations has gone down from by 61,000 between 2023 and 2024. Okay, now we'll get back to pictures. This is much easier to look at than all those numbers. So when you look at this in a pie chart, you can see that we have support for congregations, communities, and ministry at 52.6% of our expenditures. But I'd like to point out to you that if you look at that purple pie wedge, clergy supporting ministries, this is diocesan clergy staff who are specifically supporting various ministries, and they include the Canon for Children and Youth, the Canon for Black Ministry, the Canon for Border Ministry, the Canon for Hispanic and Latino ministries, and the Canon for Native American ministries. And so it's important, I think, for us to know that we have resources at the diocese who are helping to lead these ministries and give guidance and support. The diocesan support staff is at 18% of our expenditures. Operating expenses are at 12.4%, and the diocesan clergy staff, the remaining diocesan clergy staff, is 10.2%. And so that brings us to I want to then just show in total of our projected spend for all of our support for congregations, communities, and ministries. That total combined is $2,322,000 and represents almost 60% of the total revenue of the budget. And here's the various categories. We are supporting of the 2.3 million. This is the various places where we're spending it: mission in our congregations, adult education, children and youth, our various ministries, Hispanic, Native American, Border and Black ministries. I include here the amount that we pay to the Greater Church. And so I think it's just helpful to see exactly how the various pieces of the pie go. And most notably, the mission share rebate percentage, you can see, is going to be 7% of all that outreach. Okay, I am going to go over to kind of a different topic right now, and that is a project that the finance team has taken on this year, and it was a receivables and debt forgiveness project. Okay, so the diocese holds almost 4.4 million in receivables from congregations, and it's mostly made up of unpaid assessments and mission share, past due payrolls, and Fund B loans. And some of these receivables go back many, many, many years. There's a chance that maybe your church has some debt to the diocese that you don't even know about, because we haven't done anything about this for so long. But the fact of the matter is, these are still sitting on our books, and we needed to address this and just make things better. We worked with the diocesan finance team, worked with the leadership of the diocese to analyze all those receivables and determine as best as possible a way to forgive and write off some of these amounts. So we wanted an approach that was fair and equitable as we could be, and we wanted to forgive as we have been forgiven. Because so this is a little bit of a history for us, but in as much as we, the diocese, were not receiving assessment payments and mission share payments from our churches, we in turn were not paying our fair share, our assessment, to the Episcopal Church. And we reached out to the Episcopal Church and put our case to them, and they forgave us 1.2 million in unpaid assessment. And so to the extent, as I mentioned, that we have been forgiven, we also want to forgive our churches and missions as much as we can. So the Finance and Standing Committee reviewed the recommendations of our project, and they approved to forgive and write off over 1.7 million. And so some of you will be receiving letters if you're one of those churches that maybe has some outstanding debt. So don't worry. So, but this is a good start. We're going to continue this process of looking at various things that we are owed and working with our congregations to come up with some fair and equitable means of handling what is remaining. Okay. And that's it. Are there any questions? And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
A reminder, if that you have questions, please raise your hand if at all possible, and we will call on you. And thank you, Susie, for the great presentation and for the great work. I also want to affirm Susie essentially works full time for the diocese. It's an unpaid position, but it's a brilliant one and wonderful. And you know, someday we're going to get her a desk that's not out in the hall.
It is my pleasure to serve.
Ken.
Better unmute. Yeah, my question is, in terms of the distribution of the expenses, particularly the missions, what we do in terms of missions, how does that compare to targeted or targets in those areas or targets from the national church?
So we don't really do a comparison to how we are spending our support for missions with the national church. Unless Bishop Jennifer, are you aware?
I could answer that generally. I mean, okay. I'm not going to get it. First of all, there is no standard budget for a diocese in the Episcopal Church because we're all very different. I mean, you have dioceses that go from anywhere from like 10 churches to 200 churches. And you have dioceses, some that like our diocese, which is essentially supported almost entirely through mission share payments. And you have dioceses that sold a hospital system for millions and millions of dollars or have oil revenues or things. So it's all a little bit different. I would say overall, our diocese spends significantly more on supporting missions congregations than most other dioceses that I've worked in or whose budgets I'm familiar with.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting to, is it's how well are we doing in terms of what we'd like to be able to do in that area, I guess would be more appropriate.
Well, I mean, what would I like? I would like every church to have enough money that they could support themselves and everything would be great. And, you know, it would be really simple and we would reduce mission share assessments and that would be great. But if we did that in our diocese, we would not have rural congregations. And we would not have congregations who have speak a language other than English. And I think investing in those parts of our diocese are really important. You know, I will say, as someone who's now lived in Arizona for not quite 5 years, but who is an urban person, my understanding of the necessity for the Episcopal Church in rural communities has grown exponentially. And I do not want to abandon our rural communities. And my understanding that our commitment to urban ministry and to congregations who, in this case, generally speak a language other than English, also really important. So I'd like to see more of a balance. I want to take some of those congregations and raise them up so that they are able to cover more of their expenses. But I wouldn't want to run away from either aspect of that.
I agree. That's what I was trying to get to. I'd like to see more myself. Thank you.
Okay.
Is that it? Ooh, we're going to get out early.
That's always a good thing.
I was going to try to raise a hand and I can't find it. Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Sorry. And I don't know if you can will answer this or not, given our unique situation this year. But do we know does an individual church know what the mission share is going to be next year? When will we know that for our budgeting?
So the mission share that you owe to the diocese, or the mission share rebate?
No, not the rebate, that what we owe. The mission
share for your budget.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
what you've been helping us with, the mission support, I should
Oh,
say.
yes,
Not
yes.
messenger,
Okay.
the
Got it.
mission
Thank you.
support. Sorry.
Yeah. So, okay, so now I'm still confused then. So you're not talking about mission share, but the amount of support that we have budgeted for the various churches. Is that what you're asking?
Right.
Okay.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
And ours has been lowered each year, which was expected, and I don't know what it's going to be this year.
We can talk, Jackie, because you guys are in a special position, right?
Yes, we are.
So St. Stephen's Douglas is in this interesting position where, because of the fire, things are much worse and better all at the same time.
All at the same time.
I'm very grateful to the outpouring of financial support, not just from members of this diocese, but from people all over the country and the world who have reached out to support St. Stephen's, and our work with that in the financial statement of mission. As you'll see, there's a half-time priest who is coming to St. Stephen's starting later this month, and he is going to be actually funded partly by St. Stephen's, which is one of those congregations now that's stepping up to say, like, okay, well, we can help contribute to our clergy. So, but we can talk specifically, Jackie.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay. Well, I sincerely thank everybody for being patient with me as I go through a lot of numbers. I do try to put a few pictures in just to make it a little more understandable, hopefully, for people. But I appreciate the support of Bishop Ruddle and the finance team, and so glad to have Patty Henderson on board with our team right now. So thank you very much.
All right, and thanks to the rest of you for being here. A reminder that the next pre-convention workshop is next Thursday, October 12th, also at 6:30 p.m. That workshop will be for nominations. I will put in your head that for clergy members of standing committee, we have 3 candidates and 2 spots. Good job. For lay members of standing committee, we have 3 candidates and 2 spots. Good job. For the disciplinary board for clergy, we need 2, and we only have 1 nominee. So if you are a clergy person and are interested in being nominated from the floor and are interested in learning more about what serving on the disciplinary board entails, I encourage you to reach out to me or someone else to discuss that. And in the lay order for disciplinary board, we need to elect 1, and we have 2 candidates. So thanks to all who stood for nominations. And if you tune in a week from now, you will get to meet all of them. And I'm hoping that someone who is clergy on this call right now is having their heart strangely warmed at the thought of serving on the disciplinary board. And then reminder that the actual business meeting of convention is on Tuesday, the 17th at 6 p.m., not 6:30 p.m. So 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 17th. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and take care.